Emily Cutchin's Adler, the buttery babe. Here from you from our still quarantined kitchen. Technically, Governor Pritzker, who we love, has put us into stage 4, but that doesn't mean that Bunny has let me out of the house. Today, for a special treat, he let me go to Costco. Yay! Anyway, we're here and we're gonna make Puttanesca. This version of Puttanesca, warning, is not traditional. It is what the Bunny and I call too much. Too much spice, too much anchovy, too much everything, and exactly what we need after too much cocktail. So, come with me and I'll make Puttanesca. We have Jake. Sorry, camera girl is quarantined in another house. So, to make the Puttanesca, we have 1 quart of tomato sauce. This is actually the last quart we have from the garden from last year. If you have whole tomatoes, works fine. If you've got diced tomatoes, works fine. Whatever you've got. We've got olive oil. We have 1 cup of olives, 1 pound of linguine. You could also use fettuccine or spaghetti. This is what we have in our kitchen. 1 can of anchovies, 2 ounces. Now we get to the too muchness. 4 tablespoons, yes you heard me, tablespoons of crushed red chili flakes. 4 tablespoons of crushed garlic and a 1/4 cup of capers. Now most recipes call for a 1/4 teaspoon of chili flakes. I don't understand that. What's the point? The olives we're using are a mix of Kalamata, green, and dried Moroccan olives because that's what we have in the house. And we just give them a very rough choppy like chunks. If you don't know how to pit an olive, I'm going to show you. Put the olive on your cutting board, take a knife, and you very heartily squish. It's very satisfying. See how it cracked that olive right for you? Just bend it in half. Take the pit out. Once again, olive meets cutting board, meets knife, squish. Yay! Break it in half, take that pit out, and then for our purposes, just a super duper rough chop. Now, if camera boy would like to join me at the stove, we'll continue on with the recipe. You may be missing camera girl in all the shots of my boobs. Sorry. She's quarantined in a different house. We have my cousin Jay, who's a temporary camera boy. He'll have to do it. So, we have a pot of water that is boiling. And it has been salted heavily like the sea. We're going to dump our pasta in. This pot is actually one of the only pots that the Bunny came with, as I said, when we were dating. And it has a really handy dandy pasta insert, which makes it great because we can drain the pasta right in there, but we can still have our pasta water to finish our sauce. So we're going to give that a quick stir. It's boiling. And while it finishes cooking, to al dente, to the bite, we will make our sauce. So we're going to put our burner on medium-high and let that heat up for a second. When it's done heating up, let's put that up a little higher. There we go. We are going to put in about 1/3 of a cup of olive oil. That is our pumice olive oil because the olive oil is not going to be the main flavor. It's going to be the cooking agent. If we were using it as like a finishing, we'd use our extra virgin. The anchovies we're using today are packed in oil, not in salt. If you have anchovies that are packed in salt, that's fine. You're just going to give them a quick rinse. Yes, I said correctly, 4 tablespoons of garlic. That's going to go in. Hear the nice sizzle, that means our oil's hot enough. We're just going to stir that around. We don't want it to brown too much. While that's cooking down, we're going to dump in our entire thing of oil-packed anchovies. And we're going to take our spoon and mush them up a little bit with the garlic. We got our spooning in Bellagio when we were in a wedding in like the Lake Como area in the fall before we were not allowed to travel. I love it. Olive wood, beautiful. But anyway, you can use any wooden spoon. It doesn't have to be my pretty fancy one. So the anchovies, you want to squish them up a little bit. You don't have to chop them up because I guess your cutting board kind of stink up. They're going to dissolve into the sauce and give it so much flavor and salt and deliciousness. And as they like to say, umami. I like to say it too. So that's going to sizzle, sizzle, sizzle with the garlic. Just make sure you get around the sides of the pan because you don't want the garlic to burn. It makes it bitter and acrid and horrible. If you need to adjust your heat, you can put it down on low. Take your time because the sauce is going to cook while our pasta is cooking. See how the anchovy is mostly broken up? That's awesome. It's what it's supposed to do. Puttanesca. Some might call it whore sauce. We call it Lady of the Night sauce. It's actually not that old a sauce. Probably from World War II when the options in Naples for a single woman's work were kind of limited. I love it because we're in lockdown essentially and all the ingredients are things in jars and cans. So now we're going to add 1/4 cup of capers. Mine were packed in brine. If yours are packed in salt, you're fancy. I don't blame you. Just give them a quick rinse out. And then we're going to add our 4 tablespoons of chili flakes. Yes, it's a lot of chili flakes. This sauce, as I said, too salty, too spicy, so perfect. I love it. I'm just going to give them a quick sizzle in the oil. The oil helps release the flavors. It makes it delicious. Let me just give our pasta a quick check. Still needs a few more minutes. So those are sizzling away happily. Now we're going to add about a cup of olives. As I said, this is a mix of olives because it's what we had in the house. I think black olives are probably the most traditional. Well, we had 3 different kinds of olives and not enough of any of them to make the cup of olives that I like in this dish. Give them a sizzle. We're gonna, whoo, those chilies are coming out. It's gonna be delicious. And now we're gonna put in our quart of tomatoes. This is, as I said, one of the last quarts from our garden from last summer. But you can use diced, you can use crushed. If you only have whole tomatoes, that's fine. Just crush them up with your hand or a potato masher. If you are also still in shelter-in-place and you only have tomato paste, put in about 1 can to 6 ounce can of tomato paste and enough water and saute it until it's darker, and then add enough to make it a water to make it about a quart. It's a little saucier than they would make it in Naples, but everything about it is a little more than they would make it. Once again, not traditional. It's the buttery babe way. We're going to let that cook for just a minute. All those flavors are going to meld, they're going to get delicious, they're going to be one. And then we're going to check our pasta. And then we want our pasta to just be al dente when we pull it out of the pot, because we're going to finish cooking it in the sauce with a little bit of the pasta cooking water. Let's give it a little taste. Ooh, boiling water is hot. It's kind of the point though, isn't it? Perfect. Not quite cooked through, which is what we want, because we're going to cook it, finish cooking it in the pot so it can absorb the flavors. Our sauce is coming to a boil. You can see it by the heebie-jeebies it's kind of giving you. I'm going to turn the pot of water off. Just drain the pasta. Any water clinging to it is okay because we're going to add more water in a second anyway. Just make sure you get all your pasta. Pasta puttanesca is actually best made with a dried pasta, not a fresh handmade pasta, because you need the extra bit of chew from the dried pasta to hold up to the flavors of the sauce. If you used a fresh made pasta, it wouldn't be strong enough. So we're going to stir that in so it can start absorbing the flavors. We want that nice and coated in the sauce, and then we're going to start adding in a little bit of the pasta cooking water, so the pasta can finish cooking with the sauce, and also the starches can help this all come together and get silky and satiny and magnificent. I like to do this in a wide saucepan just so I have space to stir everything. If you're using a sauce pot, that's all you got, that's okay. So I'm adding about a cup and a half of the pasta cooking liquid. Shockingly for me, the Buttery Babe, this does not need any of my freshly cracked black pepper. It does not need any salt, and it does not need any butter. Also doesn't need any Parmesan. A lot of people frown upon shellfish or fish in general with cheese. Sometimes I'm okay with it. For this, we've got more than enough salt from our capers and our olives and our anchovies. It would kind of be overkill. So remember, our pasta was not fully cooked. We did it al dente. And it's going to simmer in the sauce for about 2 minutes. Hey, if you're back from a quick break while I went to get a bowl, totally understandable. Like I just said, with the Buttery Babe, just finishing off our very non-traditional puttanesca, or as the bunny and I say, too much. I love the term too much. The bunny has it engraved in his wedding ring because I love him too much.
Just enough.
So too much. Anyway, the linguine's just finishing up absorbing all this delicious sauce. We've got the quart of tomatoes left over from the garden from last year, a cup of olives, super rough chopped. We've got a 1/4 cup of capers, a whole can of anchovies, 4 tablespoons each of garlic and crushed red pepper, and a little bit of olive oil, probably about 1/3 of a cup maybe, and a 1.5 cups of pasta water. After we finish cooking that pasta, just about al dente, so we can finish sucking up this luscious, luscious sauce.
Hey, Buttery Babe, why is it important to use pasta water versus regular water?
Good question, Bonnie. It's important to use pasta water because it's got the delicious starches, which will help the sauce meld with the pasta and give it a silky, smooth finish. Also, why waste? It's already there. But really, you want the starches because it all needs to come together just like that. So now I'm going to just take a noodle and test to make sure it's cooked enough, and then all the seasonings how I like it. Okay, maybe it's 2 noodles. So good. So spicy. Again, this is not traditional. Feel free to cut way back on any of the ingredients, but particularly the pepperoncini, the crushed red pepper flakes, we like it really, really hot. I'm Emily Cutchins Adler, the Buttery Babe. Please feel free to visit me on my website, butterybabe.com, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, or LinkedIn. I'm so happy you joined us here in our quarantine kitchen. Thanks!